my friends. Kevin the Comic Doctor coming to you with another edition of One on One. That's right. And today we have a great special guest. We have the 9.9 Newsstand in the waiting room, waiting to come in the green room, waiting to come in. And today's episode was supposed to be about getting to know the 9.9 Newsstand a little bit more. We see him all over YouTube, especially in the last few weeks. He and many of his fellow YouTubers have been discussing the problems over at CGC. And then lo and behold, today, yet another scandal, an extension of the original scandal. We don't know. We figured we're going to talk a little bit about that a little later as well. Of course, I'm sure you all want to know a bit about that, or what we both think about that. But first, guys, let me introduce to you, like I said, the 9.9 Newsstand. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me, and hello, friends. But yeah, real pleasure to be joining you tonight. And I know we've spoken a bit, but I'm very happy to be sharing a screen with you, and yes. I appreciate it.
And please excuse me if I look off to the sides and stuff, because I'm controlling this the video and the audio and all that sort of thing. So I do apologize if I don't look you square in the eye sometimes. But again, thanks for popping by and being with us.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, thank you for having me. Absolutely. Yes, we certainly were going to have like a casual, collector catch up, if you will, and get to know one another. Like we did a little bit backstage a few minutes ago, but things changed this morning, and I do think it's very much worth diving into that conversation.
Well, we'll get there in a few minutes. I was enjoying our conversation. You were already starting to tell me a little bit about yourself, because again, I do like to know, I call it the origin stories of fellow collectors, of other like-minded individuals. And like I said, you yourself have been very prevalent on YouTube over the last several weeks. And one thing I do notice about you and many of your associates out there, other YouTubers, and I want to thank you for this, is how positive you guys are. That's something because listen, I don't get into all the nitty gritty sometimes. But I do notice, I do read a lot of the comments and such that a lot of you guys get, and I see a lot of toxicity and a lot of anger and angst, especially when something like this happens with a company that we all have come to rely upon, right? But you guys keep it on the straight and narrow, and you keep the positivity there, which I think is very important. So thank you for that.
I appreciate it. It was something that I was newly introduced to. I mean, I have established, sort of my lane and my energy on Instagram over the last 3.5 years. And I have been on YouTube for several years, but I've always been a guest feature on friends' programs, right? And so a regular appearance, but still not my own channel or anything. And like you said, in recent weeks, about a month and a half here since all of this news sort of broke, and kind of found myself in the center of that. There have been some opinions, really a passionate opinion shared that, they were jarring at times. I wasn't used to people being so aggressive, sometimes disrespectful, but I was able to take a step back. I mean, initially my reaction is probably emotional, but I don't type that one. And I take a step back and I try to understand, well, these individuals don't know me, so they're probably misunderstanding the way that I operate or what this communication is. They don't have the 3 years that the rest of my friends have gotten to know me for in the comic community. So I have to offer a little bit of, I have to make an attempt to understand them, and it's been beneficial. A lot of people that at first took me the wrong way are now very much friends of mine. And there are still individuals out there that are using the comment section to voice their disagreements, but that's what the comment section is for. And I appreciate the passion, and I look forward to speaking to them as well.
I listen to a few other YouTubers as well, and I listen to who I like to listen to, obviously, and people that have similar views and opinions of myself. And I'm sometimes shocked by some of the comments that not only yourself but other people have gotten. I'm like, well, I don't hear the same things other people are hearing sometimes, but. Anyway, again, thanks for keeping it positive. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciated your messages the other day as well. I mean, sometimes I need to hear those things. So I really do appreciate that. Yeah, for sure, thank you.
For sure. Okay, sir. Look, let's talk about you a little bit more. You fascinated me right off the bat when we first started talking. I told you I was a high school teacher. You said, well, you give me some information. Why don't you begin by telling us briefly, I guess, your journey from high school to kind of where you are now. And I'm not sure how old you are. You don't look as old as me, which is good. So, but
you're probably I don't know, but I would assume we're in this. I'm 39. I just recently turned 39.
Oh no, I'm a little more older than you. A little older than you. I'm 52 years old. So
Okay. All right. Very
yeah,
well. Yeah, I just
long in the
recently
tooth.
turned 39.
Happy birthday.
And no, I really enjoyed that conversation we had, right? And so I'll make it quick because, we got some stuff to chat about, but I
Sure.
do want the people to get to know me a little better, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that connection. So early on, I was academically focused very much, but it's before I realized what some of my creative and entrepreneurial drivers were. Actually, the entrepreneurial drivers showed their face really early, but I
Hmm.
was still academically focused. But senior year of high school, I did actually drop out of high school because you told me you're a high school teacher. I found that fascinating. I was letting
Right.
you know that I have a great relationship with everybody that was a teacher of mine or a principal of mine, even till this day. And so, I found myself at a place where I was expressing myself creatively, feeling a little bit boxed in by the what needs to happen just so I can check the boxes. And I was part of the music business that did put out an album. I think I was 17 years old, but I dropped out of high school after talking to a bunch of teachers and had meetings with my parents and my principals and my principal, and everyone agreed this is probably the right move. He's kind of checked out here, so let him go on his way. Now, I didn't just drop off and jump into entrepreneurship right then and there. I got my GED. I went into junior college, quickly realized that still felt the same to me. Now I
Sure.
really need a breakout. And then I moved to Southern California, started pursuing the music business, which transitioned into just being an entrepreneur of various sorts.
Hmm.
Over the years, I've been a part of several startups. I've started my own businesses. Friends and I have developed applications and things of that sort. But one of the things that I've always been about is very detail oriented,
Right.
very obsessive about the details. And sometimes that works against you, right? Like waiting for perfection before releasing an item, and all of a sudden the ship has sailed,
Yes.
So those sorts of things, I had to learn these lessons over time. But eventually I found myself in a successful business that I was running with my cousin.
Yeah.
And we did exit that business a few years ago. And I decided, I wanted to fire my bosses, and I did that. And then from starting our own business, I realized I kind of wanted to get rid of clients. It's kind of the same sort of commitment, and I had to find a way to do that, found a way to do that. And now I really just go wherever my heart tells me. And as of 4 years ago, that was back into collecting comic books and selling them, and seeking out the rarest 80s and 90s, versions of of the things that give me that real nostalgia. And that's who I was when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. So I'm the same person now, just can afford to actually dive into that space and embrace it. And much like it happened for many people, they were reintroduced to their inner child during COVID, which is where it happened for me. But
Right.
I woke up to this realization that investor that I thought I was when I was 10, well, it took 30 years, but some of those things actually worked out. So now we could really play ball. And here we are today.
That's awesome, man. As you're speaking and telling this your background here, it's just it's 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 like the bizarro version of or I'm the bizarro version of you. Whereas I was not academically driven in high school. I freaking
Okay.
hated school. It
Got
was
it.
it was I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't skip and cause problems. I was a drone. I'd go to school and do my thing, but I absolutely despised it. And here I am going off to university. And like I told you, I dropped out of university. Things were hard. Went back to university, got myself a teacher's job, and I'd always said if I'm going to go to school, I'm going to be a teacher. That's what I want to do. And so I did
That's
accomplish
awesome.
that. But it was talk about firing your boss. That's another thing. Like what brought me to this? What gave me this? It was a really awful boss that I had, and I hope she's watching. She probably isn't, but what an awful boss and human being this person was. I'm not going to go off on that, but because of that person, I took a leave of absence without pay. I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I was halftime, and in the extra halftime, I built the Comic Doctor. I was already had it. It was already pretty
Amazing.
busy, but I just put all my eggs in that basket, and boom, look at it. It just grew like crazy with that energy. And back to the comic books again, right? And
Yeah.
now when I moved to my new place, I have a shop. So that comic shop that I wanted way back when I was a kid, I now have it at this ripe old age of 52. So it's interesting. Like how we find our way back to those things we love as kids.
Absolutely. We're still those kids on the inside. And it's so
Uh-huh.
amazing that we get to reintroduce ourselves to that element. My first job, my first like job, well, I guess it wasn't the job because I was paid, it was at a comic book store, and I was being paid in, free comic books and previews catalogs. I actually
That's okay.
really loved previews catalogs because flipping through them and daydreaming for me was always just as pleasant as having the item. The fantasy as a kid is just as real as the item. Our
Right.
imaginations are crazy when you're young, right? So I loved previews magazines. In fact, I still have all of the previews catalogs I had when I was young. I still have
Awesome.
those copies.
Now you said 80s and 90s. So that's what you
Yeah.
specifically are hunting those books down, the 80s and 90s books.
Yes, and my niche though is it's I love a challenge. If it's attainable, I'm not as excited about it. Like I will still cross it off my list if I want it. But
Yeah.
once I have it, what's the harder version of it? You know, it's the direct. Okay, well, let me get a high grade newsstand. Okay, well, let me get a high grade Mark Jewelers. Okay, well, let me get that error variant, right? Let's find the most difficult thing. Let's keep driving the challenges, or the challenges are my drivers. Swag, what up? Hello, everybody. I
Yeah,
pay a
hi.
lot of attention to, you know, the chat, so I might be distracted,
That's
and
okay.
I apologize for that.
I'm trying to do that too.
And so, you know, but basically, just to make it short, 80s and 90s, but the hardest versions to find of our favorite stuff. And if that
Right.
means the highest grade, or if that means the most difficult, you know, version because there was a 5% print run that was defective, like I want those versions of it. And so I'm really in that. But I've also recently started to go back in time, meaning I've always been an admirer of an ASM 50, and this is my first time ever having one. Now, I've
Nice.
also never had a 4.5 in anything, so I'm familiarizing myself with what
It's like,
these are,
oh,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
and developing that respect and appreciation. This book's actually getting cracked out, not
yeah.
because of, you know, not as a joke, but because I
You're gonna
want to
press the data.
handle it.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
my,
you're gonna handle it. Okay.
I don't actually think it has a bump in it, but I
Okay.
want to handle it. It's my first time having this not on a wall at a comic shop, but in my hands, and this doesn't feel right. I want to touch this book. And
Okay.
so I think tomorrow I'll be cracking this one out, but it won't be my last ASM 50. But I show it to say I've started to get into the bronze, into the silver, and I'm making my way into older stuff. But this is a journey, no rush. I've got a lot to learn, and
Yep.
there's a lot of books out there for me to find. So I'm excited about it.
Well, all the prices coming down. It's a good time to get into this journey,
Right?
right? Not 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
I'm feeling a bit opportunistic. I am indeed.
No-
Sal, how are you? Derek, hello. Sober face, my friend. What is up? Awesome Keys in the building. He says, what up, Manu? Do you get, what did he say? Did you get into the Canadian variants too?
Yeah, don't do that. I'll post it. He said,
Oh, yeah.
do you get into the Canadian price variants like too, like the N8, the 9.8 Newsies
Yes.
Canadians?
I believe in them. I love them. I appreciate the scarcity and the difficulty in attaining the high grade ones. But the ones that I have are not the valuable titles, but they are part of my hunt.
Okay.
And I would never refuse an opportunity if it were the right one. But I don't like to go out there and just buy the hard thing at retail price. That's not fun for me. I want to make it, or, you know, find my way into it a
We're all
different
like
way.
that. We're all, listen.
Yeah.
Swagglehouse did that video where he talked about the kind, the the development of a collector into a dealer and then exiting and all that sort of thing, right? We
Yeah.
all like to get deals. We all like to haggle, you know.
I love it. And I'm Indian, so it's really kind of built into the DNA there. You know?
Yeah, my dad was a big haggler too. I learned, and my son, he's like 13 now. He's into video games though, right? But we'll
I
go to
love
flea
it.
markets and stuff, and he's like, "How much is 20? Will you take 12?" I'm like, "Well, okay." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, my
I like
son."
that.
Yeah, he's a little.
Lowballing is my second language.
Yeah,
I absolutely, or my first language, whatever the phrase is, but I love a lowball, and I'm not afraid to make one, and I'm not afraid to take one, because it's just the beginning of a conversation as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. Well, let me ask you this: Did so modern books? You're now tapping. You're dipping your toes into the Silver Age, Bronze Age stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to just lead you to the Golden Age stuff too eventually.
Yeah.
But your first experience with comic books, the first time you mentioned you were like really young, 4 or 5, but where did your first
early.
comic books? Where was that? Where was the first time you handled a comic book, or when was it? Where was it? And did it stick right away, or did you go back to it later?
And I've been asked this question. I do not have a memory of what my first one was. Like, I don't remember my introduction to Spider-Man, but the memories that I remember are the impact that Bagley and McFarlane had on me. Like
Right.
the comic book stores, the environments that really felt right to me. I remember those environments, but I don't remember which environments I was a part of prior. You know, the cemented moments are the ones that I recall. And I was definitely, it was, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. But once the visual aspect, the visual thing that really pulled me in, it was done. I was a McFarlane guy, a Spidey guy, a symbiote guy. Wolverine was awesome. Sam Keith was brilliant. Charles Vess, it took me a long time to catch up to that, because right now, one of my favorite covers is Web of Spider-Man #1. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Gorgeous.
I remember being like 10 thinking this is kind of boring. And now I get to look back and it was too sophisticated for my visual palette at that time. This
Right.
beautiful painted cover wasn't
Yeah.
as like aggressive as a McFarlane, cover. And so, you evolve, right? And so my tastes evolved, but I never got rid of everything I loved. I still love that too. I've just added on things I love. Like speaking of Sam Keith, like visuals like this,
Yeah.
like these take me back to being 9 years old immediately. I absolutely obsess over stuff like this. Nostalgia. I'm a big Venom guy. This
Right.
is from '94. I love this visual, but anyway,
That's
that
awesome.
kind of thing. Yeah.
And funny, again, you mentioned Web of Spider-Man. And the people that follow me know the very first comic I bought at a real comic store when I officially became a comic collector in grade
Yeah.
9 was Web of Spider-Man #1. It was that was my first book. Yeah.
I love that
That's
book.
funny. I loved it. I still love it. It's gorgeous,
Yeah.
right? You brought up cards there too. You're also a
Yeah.
card fanatic. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I should have said, like, initially when I started collecting as a younger guy, a child or whatever you call it, I was like 50-50 cards and comics because the visual thing was my big draw. That was my big pull. Like once I read about a character, once I read one of the stories, I kind of felt like, well, I know this character now, I love him. So anything that he or she looks cool on, I'm a fan of it, whether I read it or not, right? And so cards and comics went hand in hand. All of the information on the back of cards, those stories, those details were always a really fun read for me. And yes, my journey into collecting just started. And I've always been an individual that followed just what my insides told me. I still, to this day, I don't spec. It's not exciting for me to buy something because someone else might like it later. I only invest in my time or energies or efforts into things that I like. And I firmly believe that other people probably like it too. So I'll find someone to buy what I like later so I could actually enjoy the journey of having it. I don't want to hold on to a bunch of shit. I don't know if we, sorry. I don't want to hold on to a bunch of stuff. Okay, great. I don't want to hold on to a bunch of stuff that I can't personally appreciate just because I might want to sell it later. I'll invest in something else if it's just about that. I can buy all kinds of stocks and crypto and all this and all that if I want to spec on price, but I want to spec on price in relation to me enjoying the ownership while I'm waiting for it to go up in value.
I stay away from cards because I don't want to go down that path. I just don't.
I'll help you.
And I press cards too. I work on them. I have a few dealers that give me cards. You can
very cool.
know what you're doing. You can improve them. Even the modern stuff. Although I do like working on the old hockey cards and the old, from the 70s and 80s. Those are my favorites to work on. But what was I going to say there? I lost it.
You said you didn't want to go down the road of cards because you don't want to open up that can of worms.
No, I don't. Oh, that's gone. It'll come back later. It'll come back later. Yeah, it's that's bugging me. It was a good point. It's okay. But you know what? We got to know each other a little bit now. It's great. These guys I know. I changed my thumbnail. My thumbnail originally was, just a origin story of V9.9 Newsstand. Now we're here and the scandal has happened today. Holy cow.
Let's dive in.
Let's talk about this.
Okay, so first Paul? I'm going to forget his last name. I'm sorry. I don't have the actual lawsuit pulled up or the Twitter post. I'll pull it up in a second. But an attorney named Paul at, I believe, 6:30 this morning, put together, the way that he delivers information on Twitter, put this together. I think he comes from a different collecting background or a different world, and maybe he's more involved in sports cards. Don't quote me on any of that. But the way that he described what he was giving, the information he was providing, was that this is kind of in his hobby, but it's related because it's about collectibles and it's about grading. So I take it that he's not a comic book guy, generally speaking. But a friend of mine named Neo Cards and Comics, he's in cards and comics. He's got a great YouTube channel called Neo Cards and Comics, as well as an Instagram page. And he messaged me that Twitter post early in the morning. And I woke up to it. And I, wiping the sleep out of my eye, and I'm reading this, and I just, oh shit, and I quickly realized that this may or may not be related to the previous reholder situation, but it doesn't matter. Any situation is related. If you've got systematic flaws that now internally are being compromised, and your employees are stealing books from people and having them graded to their benefit or printing out whatever labels they want, I don't care if they're the same people or if they know each other or not. this is all the same problem. The problem is all of the problems facing third-party grading, and right now we're focused on CGC. So I made a story post about it, just screenshotting him and linking to his thing, and of course, you know, other people in the community had heard about it. Swaggle put out his video on it, a great breakdown. Automatic Comics put out his video on it, a great breakdown. Neos put out his video. I just saw Comic Book Investments put out their video, and you know, all of the people whose voices are very important on this realized right away, oh shit, this has to be heard. Like we've talked about for a few weeks, we can't take our foot off the gas, you know, with CGC, because if they feel too much forgiveness, nothing's going to change. I really feel like we're at a point in time now where we're not ready to easily forgive anymore. We are fed up, it feels like. And I really hope we are, because we deserve better. We trust them with things that are invaluable to us, priceless, and we pay for them to grade things that are priceless to us. Not only do they not provide us the service that we are paying for, unfortunately, too often, but now I don't know. I mean, look, we can't trust their cases, and now we can't trust our stuff when it's on the premises there. This is tough, man. This is really troubling to me, to say the least.
You know, and a lot of it's coming out now. You sent that little bloob to me earlier today. I'm like, oh, yeah, brother, here we go. And immediately I thought it was connected to the other scandal, and it might still be. We don't know.
It might still be,
right? I know John Sherwood. I'll shout him out. He's one of my subscribers and clients. First thing he said when the whole Slabgate.
Paul Lesko. Yes, thank you. Sorry,
it's all right. He said inside job, and you know, it'd be a lot easier if it was. But again, we don't know that for sure. We're just speculators. We're not going to go down that road. But my gosh, you know, lately I've been getting books back from people with damage on the books. Obviously, like I got a great example. I got a 9.8, not a super huge book, but ASM 361, 9.8. And it had a huge dent. I showed it on my show, a big dent down the top of the book. Well, how's a 9.8 have a dent like that? So obviously that happened when the book was being encapsulated.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on over there? And that's not the only story. I could tell about 3 or 4 more that happened in just the last month.
I've seen some of your recent episodes, and I know how many books you deal with. You know, you are a, what is it called? I'm sorry, a certified CGC dealer? No, that's not what it's called. What's it called?
They call them authorized CGC.
Authorized, but that means, you know, you have an account with them. You get a discount to submit. You are a presser. You care for people's books. You do a lot of business with CGC. Me, 100%. A small volume submitter, notice a high percentage of problems. I can only imagine what you encounter and the frustrations. I recently saw a video of yours about the shipping back and forth to wrong addresses. Come on.
Yeah. And it happened again last week, right? I mean, it's crazy. And then I don't want to go off on them now, but even just today, another problem occurred. Partially my fault. I'll tell you this really quickly.
Please.
I mean, I had an invoice for another American client, and I paid for it. I shipped him off his invoice, but I forgot to put on his the CGC fees. I take care of that. And when he received the box of his finished books, he figured, you know, had the invoice inside. He figured, oh, I have to pay this. So he cut 2 checks, sent them to CGC, and they cashed them. And then they wrote me back today and said, what's the problem? I said, the problem is I paid for that entire order, almost $1,500. In December, on December the 18th, you're saying I didn't pay for that? And then you cashed it when the guy sent the money, and you should have noticed the invoice number was already paid. Why would you cash his checks? Why wouldn't you contact him? Contact me? That kind of nonsense, right? It's
the negligence there. It's on another level.
I tell you, you got, for anybody who does send a lot of books in, like you said, you send a few books here and there, but for anybody out there that sends a lot of books, any other dealers out there, make sure you go through every single payment on your Visa statement. Make sure everything they tell you is done, because they'll forget. Trust me, I've called them on it many times.
And when you get those charges in your email, it doesn't actually tell you what they're for. You kind of have to guess. Oh, this must be my pressing fee. Oh, this must be the upcharge. You never really know what the hell that charge is for. Sometimes
you don't. You can assume it's either maybe shipping sometimes, or they change it to a different tier. But I have I don't know if I have one here. Let's see this right here. Like, I have them send me, they have statements, which they don't send me anymore, by the way. I have to call and request statements. Someone saying something funny out there?
Someone said, just write your name on the book. And there you go. Sober face. Yeah, exactly, right? My goodness. There's a yes.
but here's all my, my invoices going back a few months, right? It's just, I go through the highlighter and I make sure everything corresponds with my Visa statement. And if I see some, and I actually, by doing that, I caught that I did not bill my client. And so I contacted, and he goes, "Oh, I sent payment to CGC." I said, "Oh my God." And then here we go. Like, they're going to fix it. They'll fix it, but it's always a 2-3 day process. It's emails, time.
We're also not because I'm a little fed up by it, and I feel like you are as well. Like, making it right after messing it up is not actually wiping the slate clean, because the time and effort that it required to make it right is wasted. So making it right would actually be, now people are going to tear me up about this because no one owes you more than that you paid them, but someone needs to account for the fact that every time you have to correct a mistake, you're losing a week or two.
That's right.
Okay, I got to ship a book back. Great, they sent me the shipping label. I still have to package it up. I still have to go to the post office and drop it off. I still have to wait. What if I needed, well, personal problems are personal problems, but an individual might need to turn that book around quick.
Oh, I know.
What's the point of deadlines if the deadlines don't get adhered to, like, at all?
Yep.
So yes, their customer service, when I call them, they're phenomenal.
Yeah, they're
but
very nice.
The ball doesn't get dropped with them. The ball gets dropped with whoever's supposed to execute what needs to happen afterwards, right?
Yep.
The system is a little screwed up. And so that's what's frustrating. It's like, yes, they'll make it right sometimes, but you can't make it completely right, because completely right would have been not wasting a month.
Well, that's it. And for me, time is everything, right? One of the biggest problems I had with them was last year, and all my viewers will know, because I was complaining about it. The cracked slabs, every friggin' box, sometimes full boxes with cracked slabs. And they were micro cracks, they were small, but I know people are very picky, and they want their slabs perfect. There you go. If it's got a scratch or a scuff, they're going to complain to me. If I don't get it back within the 14 days, and I have to pay for it. So I was shipping back full boxes, and that, how much time that took? I'm talking hundreds of orders. And so I'd have partial orders here. Like, I'd take half of their order here and send half their order back. So I have to hold on to the half that was done, wait for the other. So their orders would take an extra 3 months. They already waited so long, right? It was just that was a nightmare. I remember spending a whole weekend organizing everybody's books. So it's a lot of work to organize.
You don't get to close the chapter until it's done. Your customer is not taken care of until they're taken care of. So it's open.
It's open, and I'm not getting paid for that, right? That's just extra. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Yeah," and sweating and trying to get all the comic books organized. I almost stopped sending them at that point. I was so pissed off about it. And they, "Oh, we're sorry. Yeah, send me a check for $500 for the shit that I fixed that you guys screwed up," right?
I hear you.
And these were not shipping cracks, by the way. These were not cracks that happened when it was shipping. It was happening as they were encapsulating them. You could tell.
Those micro cracks, those pressure cracks happen during the encapsulation.
100%.
And being detail oriented, you're a presser, so I know you are, and I'm obsessive, which is why I had strength entering into this identifying high grade thing, because the stuff that makes my life difficult actually was to my benefit here. Worrying about the details. But I notice all of those cracks. When you look at one of these CGC slabs from the top down, like say you're photographing it, you'll notice those weird markings sometimes. And then when you twist them to the side, you realize, oh shit, that's like a reflection of a micro crack
inside. That's right.
It's terrible, because I do understand that there's people out there that are like, guys, are you buying this to protect your book, or are you buying this so the case is pretty? Well, we're buying it for both, because it is the visual appeal of the book once the book is encapsulated. If the case is scuffed up, if it has Newton rings, if there's hairs on the inside, if the label's printed off center, all of that makes a difference. The whole idea of grading is detail oriented. So shouldn't the presentation be respected the same way? It makes sense to me that it should be. And so I'm not very forgiving of all of that. I don't think it should be accepted. I think we should be returning them, which is unfortunate that we have to. But cracked slabs are not all right. You shouldn't just be able to write it off like, oh, that's a part of the process.
And they're doing that now. Now they're saying, yeah, our slabs can have little cracks, little scuffs, and we won't do anything about it. I'm like, okay. I'm actually glad they said that, though, because it took me off the hook. They were fixing it for a long time. I said, could you guys just put out a statement saying that micro cracks are okay? Because if you say it and you're not going to fix those slabs anymore, I don't have to go through this nonsense. And they but
good. Well, I'm glad they did that. Actually, I think they took the same stance on Newton rings a while ago as well.
Who cares? Newton rings never bothered me anyways, but
well, if they're offensive, like if their whole book is saturated with them, it's like, oh, it's a bit of an eyesore. But there's also like home remedies for Newton rings that some people like to play around with. And
Mylar,
work,
little Mylar.
Yeah, you slide it in there, separate those two plastics. Maybe for a week you'll be without Newton rings, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, someone just asked me if I was going to do anything different with CGC.
Sean, what up?
Right?
Yeah, I want to ask you that. I want to know.
Look, if all my clients don't want to send them anymore to CGC, then I'll listen to my clients. But most people still want CGC. They want the industry leader. They want Coca-Cola. They want the company that started it all.
Who made it Coca-Cola though?
We did.
Exactly. So can't we change that narrative?
Sure, we can. Diet Pepsi's good too.
It is, right?
But I mean, so you're right. But the problem, and then another guy just says, Comic Doctor, do you work much with CBCS? No, I don't work much with CBCS because, again, I'm not going to tell I have a video on my horror story with CBCS. I was ecstatic when CBCS came out, like when they started taking slabs or comics for this, because you need competition. Right. It keeps you honest, right? You need, people will up their game if someone else is out there doing something better than you are. They'll.
Oh, I want to talk to you about competition. I'll leave a note for myself. Yeah,
sure. And so I was sending a lot of books to them. I was sending them like big Golden Age books, like Superman. I remember I said the Action Comics 13 I sent to them. I sent some really big books. And I would send in here and one there. And the slabs were really fat. They were stronger, which I appreciated. I still didn't like them as much as the CGC books, but whatever. I was giving them a chance until the day I sent them 3 ASM 300s for a client for Stanley verification. And I had a McFarlane one I sent. And that order was gone for 10 months. And then when they finally shipped it back, they shipped it to the wrong address twice, like completely wrong, like another town about 3 hours from here. And it was so bad. I was going in for surgery that morning when I saw that they rerouted it the wrong way. And I said, I called them. No one answered the phone, of course.
Yeah.
That's that right there's a game. If you're not going to answer your phone, I'm not sending my books to you or my clients.
I agree.
To you. And if I'm talking to some person in the Philippines, not happening. I heard they do that now. Do they outsource their customers? No.
Oh, do they? Okay. Yeah, I haven't called their customer service in a long time.
I haven't either,
because I didn't think there was a reason to try because they don't answer.
Right. and then CBCS says, well, we'll get the Canadian market. We have an outlet in Oakville, Ontario, just outside of Toronto. And so all you Canadian submitters can bring your books to just outside of Toronto and drop your books off. I'm thinking, oh, that's not a bad idea. So I called them and I said, I did get a hold of somebody, or I emailed, I can't remember. And I said, are you grading the books on premises or are you shipping them to Texas? Oh, we're grading them on the premises. I'm thinking, okay, you know what? For a Canadian dude, no more customs nonsense. Maybe I will start using, if they're grading them right here, I can drive over there and deliver them.
Yeah.
That's not the case though. They weren't doing that. They're full of shit. They were stockpiling comics and then shipping them to Texas. So if you are the first person to drop off a book, here's my book, they put it on a pile, and maybe when that pile hits 400 books, they'll ship them. So your book will be sitting in their Oakville office or the drop-off office for sometimes 2 or 3 months before they even ship it. So what's the point, right?
That's terrible. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like CBCS, no question, from what I've seen from the videos that Immaculate Comics has done, trying to investigate these cases, accomplishing things that he sets out to and proving certain things. I've seen that the CBCS case is the superior case. No question in my mind, in terms of safety and security, it is the CBCS case. But that's kind of all they've got going for them because the infrastructure as a company is very bad. Not that CGC is a walk in the park or anything, but they at least have the ability to take as many books as we send them. CBCS, I don't think does. Even if we decide to pivot and ship them to CBCS for grading, I think they'll drop the ball in a very serious way. I think our return times will be too long. We might have these situations that occurred last year where they're losing books or sending them home with employees to grade them after hours, in their private residence.
Oh my God.
Which none of us want to happen, but I don't know if they're set up to take on the business that they could potentially earn here if they took advantage of the scarring going on at CGC.
Oh my God. You're 100% right. They've been knocked down and knocked down another time. And that whole 9.9 pre-screen knocked down again. Holy cow! What are you guys doing? They needed to do a lot more.
I have my pin.
Oh,
I have
sick.
my limited edition CGC pin. Justin, my friend Justin Spidey Hits got that for me.
Nice, very sick. But yeah, I mean, you would think a company would. They upped their advertising game a little bit, but it wasn't anywhere close to
not nearly enough.
No.
I was happy to see it, but you are supposed to get aggressive when there's an opportunity. Your foot's in the door, kick it down.
But the spokespeople they have are not very aggressive. They weren't very.
They quite frankly, and I say this for CGC as well. CGC is closer to what I'm about to say is they don't have like CBCS has good branding now, good looking stuff, but yeah, the spokespeople don't seem to connect with the audience as well as I would want the faces of my company to connect with the comic book grading audience, right? Maybe they're appealing to one generation, but there's a bunch of other generations and types of people out here that want to feel like you understand them and speak to them. And they certainly haven't done a good job of that, but that's all right. They're working, I guess, on it.
They're trying, but as long as people think that their slabs are going to get more money when they sell them as CGC slabs, they're going to keep going there. That's the way it is. Everyone thinks that their books are going to garner more of a return down the road if they're CGC graded and not CBCS graded.
So far, it's been true.
Yeah. So why are they going to go to CBCS then? Scandal or no scandal? I'm going to tell you, I'll be honest. I had books submitted today. I had a bunch of books submitted on the weekend, and where they all wanted to go, CGC.
I understand.
And even with the scandal today, and I said this on a previous episode of one of my shows, I said, if there's some kind of I don't like to say this, but some kind of an attack or some kind of, something happens at an airport, some kind of kerfuffle happens at an airport. For the next 6 months, that airport security is going to be top notch, right? It's going to be top notch.
Right.
Safest time to travel.
Yeah.
So right now probably is the safest and best time to send your books to CGC because they know they're under the gun. They're being, scrutinized by all of us, and all this stuff's public. We know it. So
I want to tell you something, and I want to get your opinion on this.
Sure.
And I don't know if he wants me to discuss this, so I'm going to leave his name out. But a friend of mine who deals in comic books, grades regularly, actually has a comic shop too.
Okay.
But like an independent, not a brick and mortar, right? He is a comic shop. That is what I mean. And he recently got a 25 book submission back. It was a pre-screen, and he knocked it out. All 25 made the cut, but 10 of the 25, was it 10? Oh my gosh, no, it wasn't. No, sorry. The reason I'm saying the number 10 is, 3 of them were 9.9s and 1 was a 10. Now, I want to caveat this or preface this by saying these are brand new books.
Modern.
These modern books with plastic covers, this kind of cover, that kind of cover, they get 9 9s and 10s. But he grades a lot. And every now and then, out of a 25 book submission, he'll get 199. He's never had a submission with 3 9.9s and a 10 in it. And he said to me, Manu, I think it's gift grade season because they're trying to, maybe win some favor with the community. That's not a great thing, though. If you get a bunch of loosely graded 9.9s on the market, the long-term effect of that is terrible, actually. But do you think they're doing that right now? Maybe intentionally giving out better grades so that we like them if we submit?
Well, they just increased my discount finally. As a dealer, when I first went to CGC, we got 20%. Then about a year and a half ago, they knocked it down to 15%, which is bullshit. Yep. And then I'm saying, well, how am I supposed? It's not worth my time. They told me, well, up your charge to your clients. Okay, nice. And then now they went to 25%, which is okay. Are they being nice? Of course, they're trying to be nice. As for the grading, however, I hope that's not the case. But I hope that's not the case. But I can be honest with you. I hear people. I know a lot of guys who submit a lot of books, and they'll be like, "Right now is a good time to submit." Not saying right now, like certain parts of the year.
Anecdotally, you've heard that during.
Like 6 months ago, they're really tough right now, or they're really easy right now. Oh, they're giving gift grades right now. So you hear all kinds of stuff.
Hard to substantiate though, right? Like we don't know, but
I don't get a lot of 9.9s and 10s. I don't send a lot of ultra modern books, and most of my clients are giving me Bronze Age stuff and modern stuff that's not like super new. So I have, whenever I send that kind of stuff, I do get 9.9s, and I've gotten 10s as well. But and that's fine. Like I said, I hold that whole 9.9 thing. I think from ultra modern books, if they want to start saying that, from this year onwards, or this genre onwards, Yeah, 9/9s and 10s were more readily, allocated to comics, but pre 1995 or pre 2000, they're a little, harder to find in 9/9s and 10s. That to me is okay, but that
Sure.
the whole pre-screen 9/9 thing is a nightmare. They should not go anywhere near that. That's a bad thing. But
Yeah, that was a fun little thing to come out of the interview with Matt Nelson. Again,
yeah,
I'll reiterate, it was unintentional. I know people say there was a diversion. No, I brought that up. It just happened to be that I was supposed to be really hard on Matt Nelson, and I just ended up having casual conversation with him because, on a different level, outside of, what's happening, I'm also just like enthused about speaking to people. I like having
yeah, sure.
conversations. So that was, yeah, my bad. Apologies to everyone that wanted me to go harder next time or something. But I don't want anyone to forget that I'm still fighting that fight. There's a reason that the interview happened in the first place. There's a reason that I create awareness for these things. A lot of people are just getting to know me now. They don't know for the last 3.5 years, I've always voiced when something was wrong. My voice just hadn't been as supported as it was recently, which I'm very grateful for. But obviously, it comes with the lack of understanding sometimes because not everyone knows me that well. But the point is, yes, I got a little excited during the conversation, especially when he said, if anyone has any questions about grading, ask. And I said, well, what the hell's the deal with 9.9s? How come there are 4,700 Ultimate Fallout 4s and no 9.9s? And that started that conversation. A very honest one, by the way, where he was like, a lot of those books out there probably are 9.9s. And
What the
we
hell
just
is
didn't
that?
look hard enough.
But that's
It's
bullshit.
the bullshit it absolutely is. I've called him out on it time and time again. I've made commentary on it before. It is absolutely bullshit. And that's what upsets me is CGC is not our friend. They literally are someone that provides a service, but they don't even follow their own rules. The guidelines for grading, they don't necessarily follow them all of the time, right?
Yeah.
There are certainly 9.8s that come out of that place that could have been given 9.9s, especially with Matt Nelson on record saying that a 9.9 can have a color breaking tick.
Yeah, what's that?
What the hell? And I always like to say there's not a single collector I know that would want a 9.9 with the color broken tick on it. Absolutely not. That's not our idea of a 9.9.
Well, that's just it. It's like, but they established early on with the 9/8s are the 10s. So you set that standard, that's fine. But I don't like that these little 9/9s, these little 10s are given once in a while. I don't know who's getting these 9/9s and 10s. I wonder who's getting
thought about it. I thought about it, and I thought to myself, you got to pay close attention, right? Like what's happening here. But look, there are a lot of things that have been brought to my attention recently that I can't speak about openly because I'm not able to substantiate. But it's not just, I talk about it when the proof is there. Like the lawsuit this morning, we're going to talk about it. When I found the 252 Mark Jeweler switcheroo, we're going to talk about it. I have the proof. There's a bunch of bullshit that I can't prove that absolutely goes on.
Sure.
We hear these stories. So imagine what Matt Nelson hears. But really quickly, and there is some more stuff I want to say about this, but I'm forgetting, but I want to get into this competition thing. CBCS is not a formidable opponent, right? They can't put the pressure on CGC. We can put the pressure on CGC by not submitting, but that's tough because people want to submit, they want to get their books graded, they want to maximize the profit out of their book. I recently sold I was asking $10,000 for the book. I accepted a little less for it, but after I sell the partial trade, I might actually make out higher than 10K. But regardless, let's just say I sold a $10,000 book for 10K. It's about that. Point is, that book raw, I couldn't have sold anywhere near 10K, and maybe the right collector would have offered me a couple $1,000 for it. But for me to get the 10K, it had to be encapsulated as the grade that I thought it was, and it had to be referenced with that census that shows there are only 3 of these in this grade. That's how I earned the 10K. So someone in my position, I'm conflicted. I have a book coming in right now in the mail. It's a $7,500 book. It's a 9/8 CGC book. Well, I'm going to keep it in that encapsulation. The thing about that is I know who graded the book. I know who I bought the book from, but that doesn't help the fact that there's this thing in the air right now. Even though I'm confident in that book, that's not a book I personally graded, so I can't provide the provenance like I could for this book that I just sold for 10K. I had it raw, had pictures of it raw, personally submitted, so on and so forth. You can feel confident that this is the right book. But with this one coming to me, I'm a little weirded out. Like, how am I going to represent this $7,500 book? I didn't own this one raw, but I'm certainly not going to crack it out and sell it for $1,500. So what the hell do I do now?
Yeah. You
You
just
know,
hang
but
on
back
to
to
it.
this, just
Yeah.
hang on to.
What are you gonna do?
Well, yeah, I'll figure out a way. I love figuring out a way, so I will. And I'm confident in that book. Plus, I like to focus on rare, rare, rare. Like whether it's encapsulated or not, it's hard to get no matter what, and it's not an imitation because they don't exist anyway. But back to this competition thing. The other day, and I put a post on my Instagram page, and I said, "What if PSA started grading comic books, the card
Yep.
grading company?" It started some nice conversation. And, you know, recently there have been eyeballs on my page that weren't there previously, and I'm very happy that they're there, but it leads to even more conversation. If PSA were to start grading comic books, like there's a lot that they have to sort out first, right? Comic books are complicated,
It's a
especially
monster.
depending on, it's a
It's a
monster.
monster, man. That CGC is a monster. That you know, people say, Kevin, I'll get back to you what you're saying there, but even a lot of guys here saying, you know, start a Canadian company, start a Canadian company. They should have a Canadian company. You know, I'm like, oh, you know, well, Americans wouldn't send their books up to a Canadian company. I'll tell you right now. But
oh, that shipping thing's a pain in the butt,
right,
man.
it just wouldn't happen. And Canadians would just, some Canadians would use it, but but most wouldn't. They still send it to CGC because, again, back to our previous conversation, you get more money from CGC. But yeah, anyways, that's all I want to say with the Canadian stuff. People were asking that whole Canadian.
Sure, I saw some of that there. Yeah.
So go continue. You're saying, yeah.
PSA.
Yes.
Let's just assume. Look, they have the capital to do it.
Sure, they do.
They already grade all kinds of things. They're the king in their world, and CGC is the king in comic books, right? CGC already ventured off into cards, taking a little bit of a bite out of PSA.
That's right.
And we don't even talk about the problems on the card side. It's got a lot of them. And it's not that PSA is a perfect company. They're a huge grading company that has plenty of issues as well. But the point that I'm making here is, why not come into comic books? You already had CGC try to come into cards. They're competing with you there. Compete with CGC, if not only for, or even if it's only for the reason of, you're the only entity right now that can actually compete, that can actually put up the money to make a good case, to hire the right people, to really actually put pressure on CGC, which for the collecting community, it's a win-win. Whether PSA emerges the victor, it still puts the pressure on CGC to become better, because PSA will immediately take some of the market share. Sports card people that don't grade comics are going to say, oh, PSA is offering this now, we'll send a couple comics. People like me who love CGC, want the value out of CGC, I'll go to PSA, because I will proudly represent my item and make an argument for why I believe this is still worth what you would pay for a CGC book. It was my book raw. I graded it. I only sent it to third party so that it could get certified as what I believe it to be, so that the consumer can believe it. You don't have to take my word for it.
Right.
That's what third party verification is for.
Right.
I would love them to enter the market just to put the pressure on and give us, the consumers, competition, because we'll win no matter who wins out of the two. We will win if they're competing. And then the question becomes, well, first, let me just ask you, you're not a card guy at the moment.
Yes.
Would you submit to, is that West Coast Avengers?
Right,
what
there.
up, Dave?
He's up in the air. He's flying somewhere.
He is. He's flying back from somewhere. He just spent a lot of time in, should I tell your business? You could tell your business. If you tell your business, I'll tell your business. Yeah, he was at OAX. Damn it, I told the business.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine.
That's where everybody seems to be right now.
Everyone knows he was there. He bought a bunch of really cool things. There should be some really great content coming from it as well.
Right.
I would submit to PSA.
So would I.
I would submit just to see what it's about, see what the case looks like, how it goes, right? I want to put the pressure on CGC. We need a good company to emerge one way somehow. It could be a new company that takes years to establish itself, or one of these companies can get their shit together. I don't really care what the formula is. I just really want our community to have a good third-party grading company. You know, the idea of going back to raw is not really viable, because there's more pitfalls for people that don't understand older books to buy raw. You know, you could get screwed buying raw the same way you can get screwed right now buying graded. You have to be cautious in both. But it would be really nice to have a third-party company that we could at least 85% fucking trust, you know? Something.
Well, you know, even with the cards, you can correct me here because you know more about this than I do, but I have friends that are in the sports card world, and there are several sports card grading companies, right? There's KSA, PSA, Beckett's, and there's more. There's more.
Yes, you're right.
And amongst the card people, PSA and Beckett seem to be the ones that they're trusting the most. Am I wrong? Or...
Yeah, you're right. But Beckett is losing traction quickly and has fallen into maybe even third place. SGC,
really?
I believe,
SGC.
is SGC's preferred over Beckett BGS, and coincidentally, Beckett is the owner of CBCS.
Yeah,
they both have the same problems.
So you don't want PSA to take on this burden of a new company, and then because they're the leaders in one area, and all of a sudden it's watered down, and it becomes not as good, and they lose their first place status as a card grading company, right?
Right.
Like maybe the reason CGC is doing so shittily is they grade this, they grade that, they grade video games, they grade VHS cassettes, they're doing pulp magazines now. You know, it's like they got their fingers in everything, right? It's a huge monster of a company. So I don't know. But I do agree. I think the more out there that we have, the better, more honest they'll be. Anyway.
Yes, this is a good question, and I'm sorry I'm missing so much of the chat.
Yeah, me too. I'm trying to read them, but
Consume the Living says, so CBCS you won't consider, but PSA you would trust. No. It's not about trust. I cannot give out trust that easily. There's no trust, right? The trust would have to be earned. I would give them a shot. Yeah. And I'm not saying I wouldn't consider CBCS. I absolutely would. I actually have a submission ready for them. I just haven't submitted it yet. I believe in CBCS's case. I just don't know. I'm kind of just figuring it out. I trust is not on the table, but who would I grade with? I would give any company a shot. But like I articulated a moment ago, it's like the thing with CBCS is even if the books come back accurately graded in the right case and we fall in love with their, like, is their company ready for it is all. Like, I'm going to send a submission to CBCS. I just haven't sent it yet. I already pulled those books. I already know what I want to send. I'm going to.
I'm not.
I'm done. Well, yes.
I'm done. I'm just done, right? Like,
but that goes to, I mean, like, I understand that as well. I just need to spread out my third-party grading. I just have to right now, and I don't have anyone that is the best person to do it with, the best company to do it with. But no, it's not about trust, and I would absolutely give CBCS a shot. But if PSA entered the market, I would be very willing to give them a shot because the overall good that I think that could come from it. And I hope that made sense. But if there's a follow-up, hit me with it, please.
No, 100% it does. And like, I did give CBCS a shot. I used them several times. This is years ago, mind you. So if PSA comes out and says, we're doing this now, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Why not? But what's going to sell it for me more than anything else is communication. And of course, how they handle the books and how quickly the books come back and just their processes, am I getting statements on time? Are the books being delivered properly as I indicate? Those things, because that's very important. So
absolutely agree with you.
Lots of questions coming in here. Okay, let's go to the questions now because we have a lot of guys asking questions.
Yeah, let's
get in there. I do appreciate you guys, hanging out.
Thank you, man.
If you see one you want to read, go ahead. I'll look myself.
Sure.
Oh, here we go. It's a good one. I'll put up. So Polly's Hideout says, I still strongly think the chances of something going wrong with a raw book skyrockets versus a graded book. Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't mind.
Yeah, go take it.
Yes. But here's what really is troubling for me is the false sense of confidence, even once a book is accurately graded and properly encapsulated. There's one thing that I can't avoid. And that to say is that once a book's encapsulated, doesn't mean it's safe. Every time you ship an encapsulated book, it is at risk of shifting within the case and taking on damage. Even if the outer case doesn't break, those corners take damage, right? And so, and it's not the risk that you're articulating here, but I just have to say that even if it's encapsulated, doesn't mean it's safe. But yes, the risk in a raw book, especially when you're talking about buying raw books like this, certainly increases buying it raw versus buying it graded. Absolutely. Which is why it's so important that a decent 1, 2, or 3 third-party grading companies end up existing. It's absolutely essential to the inexperienced trade of books that have a lot of variables, right?
Or the experienced people, because myself, I mean, we look for color. We don't hunt down colored touch, but we certainly keep our eye open for overworking. And at my shop, there's myself, there's Napur, and there's Charlo, and we work together in tandem. We review the books together, and we miss it sometimes. We do. So color touch could have been on there for 20, 30 years and put the most. It's really weird when you see a modern book with color touch. I always find that very odd, but you do find them.
I
And,
agree.
you
I
know,
do find them.
yeah. So, yeah, raw books, the danger with me with raw books, especially generally older books when color touch was done by everybody. Even I probably did it when I was 10 years old with a marker, right? To make my black spine look better. You might not catch it. CGC doesn't always catch it. Because
They don't always catch it.
No, because I've cracked books, sent them back, and hey, look at this, we got color touch now. Okay.
I have sold raw books that I've identified color touch on as books with color touch, and then the people I've sold them to have submitted them blue labels.
Yeah, there you go.
Labels.
So I mean,
I can show you the color touch through the encapsulation.
There you go.
But no, blue labels.
Yeah, there it is. Well, sometimes one book I often think has color touch, and it comes back universal, is ASM 300. I'm like, this has color touch. I'm always, sometimes it looks like it, and I'm really nervous about it, and it comes back blue. I'm like, okay.
Tricky book for me to grade, and I've handled a lot of them. Never graded a 9.8 of a Newsstand. I've never succeeded in doing that. But what a tricky back cover. It's like, even if you get away from those spine ticks, it has that weird white sort of roughage, scuffing thing that always sort of finds a place on that back cover. And you never quite know how they're going to grade that, right? And what a difficult book. And, you know, back to this original reholder scam with all of the 300s that that gentleman was involved in. What's so frustrating about that is many of those are newsstands. In 2021, those were selling for around $25,000, some a couple $1,000s more. And then here recently, this guy brings like 10 of them to market, depressing the values.
Yeah, I know.
We're already in a down market, and then he makes it appear as they're not rare. Well, that's because there were a bunch of 9.6s encapsulated as 9.8s.
Exactly.
They are really freaking rare. The perception just shifted because of him. And now individuals that are being paid out fair market value by CGC, which they're dragging their feet, and they're sending the most ridiculous messages to people. I want to talk about that eventually because I have the messages. But they're saying they'll compensate based on fair market value. But the market's down. These individuals wouldn't have been selling today. And part of the reason the market's down for that particular book, because it was supposed to be a ghost, and this guy just sold a dozen of them in a year. Like, that's part of the reason.
Good luck getting that through. Oh, my God. As you're saying that, it's a nightmare. You know?
I know.
I don't know what fair market value is. They buggered up a book of one of my clients recently, and the book was a Platinum Spider-Man #1, and it was a 9.4. They graded it a 9.4. Had to go back for a reslab because it was cracked in transit, and they buggered it up while they were reslabbing it. Well, the last sale was $800 US, and they offered him $450 plus the book back, which will probably come close to the
I
value,
see.
But you know,
it was kind of like a trade plus cash.
Yeah. Keep your book and use $450. To me, give him his money, and that's that. You know, keep the book.
I hear you. I want to read what Derek said here. It's the most recent comment. I didn't read it completely yet, but I'm about to. He says, I'll read it from here. He says, I don't understand this. First of all, hi, Derek. One of the defendants' job at CGC was receiving items from eBay, verifying the content of such items, and then passing them to a certifier for grading and authentication. Now, I want to talk about this a little bit because I think, so when they say that this is a husband and wife, these individuals that are being sued by CGC. Bonnie and Clyde, right?
There you go.
So this husband and wife, the husband was a grader, and the wife is said to be in the eBay authentication department. Now, eBay doesn't provide, CGC doesn't provide eBay authentication for comic books. That department exists at CGC for cards, meaning if I list this card on eBay for over $200, or maybe it's $250, it automatically is something that has to be first authenticated. The cards are authenticated by CGC. Sometimes raw cards as well over a certain price, I believe, and slabbed cards. Now, so she happens to work in that department. But yes, some of the verbiage was weird because they actually, it's not like they buy things from eBay and then grade them, and they don't get comic books in. So they just made note that that's what her job was, but she obviously had access to other things in the building, right? But her job did not give her direct access to any of the books. She just manipulated access if she did. Or maybe she's just a part of this because she sold them. You know, maybe her husband was doing all of the dirty work inside. And she was just selling. Oh, interestingly enough, she's a sketch card artist, and she's also registered as an artist for CGC. So she gets yellow labels for her work. She could do sketch covers and they get encapsulated as yellow labels, and her name is actually an artist for CGC.
Right.
So that was rather interesting as well. But so verifying the contents of such items and then passing them to the certifier for grading and authentication. So her job essentially would be receiving a card and then giving it to someone to verify it, not graded, because those cards just need to be authenticated to be shipped off to the people that paid for them through eBay. I hope that provided some. Oh, he says, "Oh, thanks, Manu. That makes sense. Thanks, Manu. I didn't know eBay was related." Okay, yeah, I'm glad I was able to provide some clarity. They do that for sneakers as well, for shoes. You buy any cool,
Jordans
rare shoes, they go through that as well. But
Right.
CGC doesn't authenticate shoes. Somebody else obviously.
Some other company does. So that's a pretty
Yeah.
good service actually, but only if you have people that are there that are trustworthy. All right.
Yeah, and I do think it's a little interesting that, and I don't want to catch heat for this, but like my PSA slab goes to their competitor to be authenticated. I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's different. Eh? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good gig, to make sure there's no funny business going on. But
you're the one doing the funny business stuff?
Well, they are. It looks like, I don't know.
Or maybe the PSA slabs go to PSA. PSA's in the authentication game with eBay as well, so don't quote me.
Yeah. Oh, you keep bouncing in and out of the stream there. It's weird.
Oh, is that my internet doing that?
No, I don't know. You keep coming back though, which is good.
Okay, good.
Let's see what else here. Okay. I still, Paulie says again, he also says, I still strongly think that the chances of something going wrong with a raw, he said that already. Whoops.
Yeah.
So good. It was such a good one. I had to put it back on there again.
Well, I mean, raw books are dangerous. We have to be cautious. We have to, this we've been saying this for a few weeks now, but it's so important. This highlights the good sellers, the relationships you have with people that you actually trust, that will take care of you, even if something goes wrong. That's where you want to do business, right? Because even a seller might get something wrong. Like you said, we might miss some color touch, something might happen. But if you're dealing with someone that cares about their reputation and you as a customer aren't happy, well, they're going to make you whole, and then they're going to worry about making themselves whole. And that's really awesome. The better sellers are highlighted in scenarios like this.
And listen, you're going to get a better deal on a raw book all day long.
Oh, yeah.
Guys who sell raw books and try to get graded prices, their books don't sell. Unless a real sucker comes along and does it. I always say to somebody, if I'm at a show and they're like, "Oh, they're selling that ASM 1 over there for this much money." I go, "What grade is it?" "Oh, it's not graded." I go, "Well, that always to me is that's red flag right there. Why are you selling a book of that value and it's not been graded?"
Right.
Seriously, what are you trying to hide?
Yeah. And to me, anyways. I can't, no. And I'm with you. And even from a different angle, I can't price in the 9.8 knowing that there's a risk that it might. I'm using 9.8s as an example, but I can't pass on the graded value knowing that there's a risk that it doesn't achieve that should you grade it, right? There's a gamble built into grading it to an extent, and anyone willing to take the gamble deserves the discount of taking on the risk. Exactly. Once the book is graded and encapsulated, it is what it is. But before that, it is not yet. So you have to price it according to the risk. And that's why I said, I can't sell a 10K book for 10K until I turn it into the 10K grade. Other than that, it's a near mint plus raw, and that sells for a different price.
Exactly. Right. And the same thing could be said for like, I'm also a toy guy too. I'm still new at buying high value toys. But a lot of guys will have the toy in the box and be, never been played with, but the box is open, the tape has been removed.
Yeah.
Oh, as soon as the seal's busted, that's no longer mint in box. It's now, it's a different tier. It drops down, right?
Yeah.
It cannot be open, right? There was one here. I'm not sure if Adam's being facetious here, or when will they publicly address forged signatures getting yellow labels?
Adam is not being facetious. Adam is very passionately involved,
right? And
he has been done wrong by CGC.
Really?
Like many have, but yeah, he has a situation that hit close to home. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I've spoken to a lot of people, but I think it was Adam that I was recently speaking to about a personal book that had sentimental value to him. And I understand his position, because they messed up.
Right.
And so he's not being facetious, but he is asking the question, when will they publicly address forged signatures getting yellow labels? When we force them to, when we continue to gather evidence and make it publicly available to the point that they have to, because they would much rather not, of course. But I have to say, we haven't started talking about the signature series program. I don't want to flippantly, is that the word? I don't want to just, loosely talk about it. There are problems there. And in fact, there are a lot of questions about how did some of these books get yellow labels that are on the list. Well, what we just saw with this morning's scam, if you will, employees can print out their own labels. So maybe that's how the hell some of those got yellow labeled and they're not the book that they originally were. We got to find out more before we can speak on it. And that's the only time they will. They're not going to volunteer to us any information that's going to make them look bad. We're going to have to force it out of them, to be honest.
Does Adam have a story? Is there something you can share with us? Like quickly?
Adam, he said I'm right, that I am talking about the right thing. If you wouldn't mind, I'd be happy to share the story, but you just give me the go ahead. I could be loose about it. Loosely, there's a book that at a 9.8 would have been about $3,000.
Right.
Raw. He said you can share if you'd like. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
And it's a Spawn 1 black and white. Okay. Right. It's released in 1997, many years after Spawn 1, but it's one of the lowest print ways to buy that book. It's quite rare.
Okay.
And a 9.8 is somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 at the time of this recording.
Right.
Maybe it's a little less. The market's weird, but he had a very high grade raw, and they brutalized the book. They damaged the life. They damaged the book. And not only that, this book was a gift from his father. It had a lot of sentimental value. So it has a high dollar value and then that other value that you can't quantify.
Sure.
And now the book is not the book still. I apologize. I think they lost the book entirely after the fact. Like it was completely misplaced after the fact. Like in an attempt to rectify, now the book has gone missing. And this submission had a few other books in it as well. And so I think he's currently working on the resolution, and the resolutions proposed so far were less than satisfying. We're talking credits and things like that don't make up for what you've actually done to the individual emotionally.
Right.
The book, they damaged it, sent it to CCS, then lost it. So I had the story right, just forgot the flow. First, it was damaged, and he said, guys, I didn't send you this, which they've damaged books of mine. I know that back and forth. Mm-hmm. I didn't send you this book this way, sent the pictures, then sent it to CCS. Then he didn't hear anything back. Further investigating, now the book is gone. That is messed up. This is a book that even raw is over $1,000 in a high grade. So that's very messed up. And now, obviously, today we're finding out about employees stealing books and re-encapsulating them for themselves. What if that book is out there and somebody else is encapsulated? I don't wish that on that book. And I wish Adam to be made whole. But yeah, so I understand why he's so passionately involved in the fight. And he wants to see change just like I want to see it.
But he mentioned the signature series portion specifically. Was it sent in to have Todd sign it? Was that why it was sent in?
No. That's unrelated. That's unrelated to his submission. But this is about the things that we as a community are investigating. Because there's books on that 350 list that are signature series books. And the question is, well, a reholder swap wouldn't make that work. So how did that work? And they're not going to tell us how. We have to discover how. But beyond that, there are dozens of other signature series books that have been found out to be tampered with. And they're not on that list, and we just can't come public with those books and those cert numbers until we know more. But a lot of really good people are digging really deep. I mean, there's some involvements here that haven't been publicly said, and there's damning evidence in the eyes of people that are digging, but not enough for us to come out and say with certainty these people did this. But we're working on that.
Manu, we can't handle another scandal, man. Another scandal. What's going on?
The way I look at it now is we can lose count of the scandals. The scandal is third-party grading, and everything is just within it, right? It's not about this one actor, this one book, none of that. It's about the system is broken. There's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong. We have to be really aware of transacting within this space, and we can't trust the third-party grading companies. Like that entire thing is the scandal, not the individual parts of it. the individual parts of it are just talking points that make this remain a headline, which I think is very important, because we can easily just, go back to saying, hey, whatever, it's a big company, they grade 1 million books, a few things are going to go wrong. Way more than a few things go wrong. Every collector I know has had experiences that hurt them. Every submitter I know has had experiences that have hurt them. People submit for the first time and get screwed. Like right out the gate, their first experience. My first ever submission with CGC was 4 books. In it was a Maximum Carnage Acclaim, Amazing Spider-Man 347 Newsstand, Venom Sinner Takes All #3, the first female Venom, Lady Venom, She-Venom, and Avengers Annual 10, the first Rogue. The Rogue came back a 9.6, and it was from my childhood. Rogue came back a 9.6, crimped into the inner well. So that was a problem.
Crimped. Holy shit.
Crimped into the inner well. And so the Amazing Spider-Man 347 came back a 9.8. It was a Newsstand, came back a 9.8. At that time, it was worth about $800. I sold it for $350 because it was manhandled prior to encapsulation. Finger bends, I can see through the case. Couldn't sell it as a 9.8. I discounted it because of the way that it looked. The Maximum Carnage Acclaim, it was a 9.2. At that time, I sold it for $1,100. And that one came with major scuffs on the back of the book. That was my introduction to scuffs. The She-Venom is the only one that was perfect. And that was my childhood copy, bought off of the shelf at the comic book store. Got the 9.8, should have been the 9.8, remained the 9.8, and that was it. But that's my first experience. Several thousands of dollars worth of books, 3 of the 4 not pleasant. Like, first experience ever. And, I didn't stop doing business with them. I just kept complaining for 3 years and continued to do business with them.
Well, maybe we should.
But I'm vocal.
Yeah, that's good. See, I don't.
I took 1 year off. I did take 1 year off.
From complaining or from collecting about them?
Oh, not from complaining or collecting, from submitting.
Oh,
I went on strike.
I see. Yeah, I went on strike a couple of times when I just got too overwhelmed and the paperwork was too much. I said, I'm done I'll do your pressing, but find someone else to do your submitting. But I'm going to tell you, in this area where I live, not many people want to do the CGC submitting. I get a lot of guys coming to me from other comic shops because they don't want to do it anymore. It's a pain in the ass and they don't want to deal with them. Right. And I can totally see that. I can totally see that.
I understand. I totally understand. James Dorfler, what's going on, my friend? West Coast Avenger eloquently says third-party grading is a scam. And James says, when you do settle on compensation with CGC, you have to sign a type of non-disclosure. And I know that's common practice, and maybe that is why I haven't heard of someone being made whole yet. But I will say this, there are some friends that have promised me, even if they sign an NDA, they're going to let me know at least what the process was like. Now, I appreciate that. I think it's important. But the people that are sharing their communications with me are the ones that haven't gotten to a compensation yet. They haven't even had the conversation about value yet. And there's one message that said it could take 3 to 4 months before we settle, before we get around to pricing this book for you. How could it possibly take 3 to 4 months for you to give me a suggestion of what you might pay me out? Oh, guys, I'll stay here. I refuse the money. They can't replace what they took. Adam, I respect the principle there. I absolutely do. And so, but
I got, as I told you, that client just was dropping off some books. I got to go downstairs and grab them off him.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to our friends here. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to our friends here, and I'll read some stuff. Absolutely. We've taken over the channel. We've taken over the channel. Adam Lotta says, I sent you an NDA they sent me on IG. Oh, damn it, Adam. I wish I didn't say that out loud. That's all right. Thank you. I'm going to read it. Oh, you sent me the NDA. That doesn't mean you signed it. If you'd like, I would like to read it. So yes, I will take a look at that. Manu, keep talking. Don't go deer in headlights. I've been left alone on the screen a few times now. I'm kind of used to it. Plus, I really enjoy the fact that I can get into the chat right now. Vinny says, hello, everyone. Hello, Vinny. Thank you for being here. D. Hyde, CGC says they don't guarantee the grade, but they charge you extra based on the grade. So we are charged the premium. It's incentive for them to up grades too. That's a very interesting conversation, right? Because you got to think about the conflict of interest there. And like Automatic Comics, so correctly pointed out, now under the ultimate value tier, unlimited value tier, what used to be walkthrough, you used to get charged a percentage. Manu about to throw a party. We take it over. Swag, I appreciate you. Spidey, it's Justin. What up? Guess that word you were saying when I popped in. I don't know what word it was. Was it fuck? No, sorry, Justin. I'm sorry. People that know Justin and I, that know Justin's channel, Spidey, his channel, will know why that's funny. What was I saying? Let me try to remember where I was. I got distracted. I'm so sorry. Distracted for good reason. What the hell was I even saying? Tone it down. I'll simmer down. Now, I'll try. Guys, it's gone anyway. Yes, Spidey hits it in the house. A Ranger, what up? Manu without parental supervision. This could be a problem. Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank you. Charging for the grades. So in the unlimited value, which used to be walkthrough, you used to pay $150 minimum or 3% of the value of the book, right? So if the 3% was higher than 150, you would pay that, but it used to be capped at 5,000. Now, I didn't recognize this change last year, but with this recent change in prices, I did pay attention. There is no more cap. So if you are one of the individuals submitting a book that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, you are going to pay, and it's not 3% anymore. Now it's 4%. So you are now going to pay 4% of whatever they believe the after grade market of the market value of the book is. No cap. No cap. So there's absolutely an incentive there to grade it high because there's no limit to what they'll charge you. It used to be capped at $5,000. It's not. There are literally books out there that they can make thousands and thousands of dollars more by just putting 1 point higher on the grade. So I do think that's a bit of a problem. And we can tell that their system is not governed as well as it should be. There's too many cracks in the system, so that is an issue. And then just standard practice, when you're grading, yes, if they give you the grade that puts it higher than the tier, if they're paying attention, they do bump you in price. And in the past, I've been very happy when I've seen that happen, right? But it's only happened rightfully. I haven't, in my experience, had it happen in a way that they give me a gift grade but charge me more. It's always been rightfully done, so I was appreciative of that. I don't think gift grades are an actual gift. I think they're troubling to someone that wants to sell with integrity because it's not a 9.8. You got the 9.8. You're going to sell it like a 9.8. I just can't do that and sleep at night. But losing the cap values, the cap charge that they could apply to a very expensive book is bad, and that does mean there is incentive to grade it higher. You are right, and that's a damn problem. VP Trading, what's going on, my man? How are you? This show has been a riot, Astro Lucky says. Appreciate that. I'm glad that, I'm glad that it's been fun. That's awesome. And Swaggle puts the brain with Derek, and that is what should be associated with Derek. Absolutely. Because Derek says, water down the vodka, Mickey. He'll never notice. They must be talking about something else. That's great. And Claudio says, so many things wrong with that. A lot. Oh, Claudio, check. This is an aside, but how about this? Some of the grading companies own the auction houses. I won't get into details right now. But how's that for a conflict?
Heritage are in bed with CGC big time, right? Like, come on.
They are big time in bed. Now CGC, the parent company of CGC, I don't believe owns Heritage, but they're in bed big time. And you know, I'll leave some other companies out. But yes, grading companies own auction houses. Auction houses sell books for lots of money, perpetuating this cycle, further incentivizing higher grades and valuations. It is an unregulated shit show, and it is up to us to stay vigilant and be smart because it's unregulated.
But how can you regulate it? How can you regulate it? Like, how can
I think the way that it's happened in the past in certain markets is good people lose a lot of money, and then there's class action lawsuits, and then people step in and try to regulate it. I don't know how it happens in collectibles, but I've seen it happen in financial markets. You know, cryptocurrency was unregulated for a long time. Now, money gets regulated before anything else. But even in a market like this, let's say the government decides they really want to track down all of the money they're missing in the taxes that aren't being paid on these purchases. That would take regulation. Right. And the way they're trying to regulate through the actual companies like eBay, like if you spend, if you sell more than this amount, you get a 1099, all of these things they're trying, but real regulation is the only way. Now, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I apologize. Your question is a good one. How can you regulate it? I don't know. It would be challenging. But right now, when a customer gets screwed, there's no recourse. There's no one you can talk to other than the person that screwed you. What are the chances that they're going to take some accountability? Now, you could take legal action, whatever,
Yeah.
But in regulated markets, you don't even have to go that far because the companies are worried about staying in business if they break the rules. In these markets, companies aren't worried about that. We are the law. We have to hold them accountable. VP Trading says he just subscribed to your channel.
Oh, thanks, man.
That is awesome.
That.
And he's fantastic. And I know you don't want to go down the card rabbit hole, but we want you to. And you should check out his page on Instagram because you want to see a beautiful display of amazing cards.
Right.
My man's got that for you. A Ranger says Spidey hits 9.9 and Sketch Card Hive with Rangers should buy out CBCS and go.
Where was that? Oh, there it is right there. Let's see.
Yeah. Sketch Card Hive works for CGC, so you'll have to talk to him about that. Shout out. And we'll see what goes on there. But Spidey hits. You want to start a grading company? Let's talk. No, I'm actually just teasing. I don't have the wherewithal to do that, and I think it's going to be financially very expensive, and right. I don't want to do it. I just don't. I just want to fight the good fight. Spidey Hit says, I'll write the check for $100. That'll get it done. That'll get it done.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, give Doc a follow. And what does he say here? This is Astro Lucky. And always Grill. Thank you very much, Astro Lucky. I appreciate you for coming out and always coming out. And yeah, if you are new here, guys, we got about almost 100 people in the room. Hit that like button if you've done so already, guys. That really helped my analytics out a little bit. And
please.
Yeah, and hit the subscribe button. I do live unboxings, CGC unboxings every single Tuesday. And this Tuesday is a few nice ASMs you're going to want to tune in to see. So yeah, do that every Tuesday, 8:30. Right. Wait,
what's happening with ASM? Oh, an unboxing.
Yeah, I've got a few Silver Age ones coming in. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's see. Mike says we need a comic book police force. We do, but in the last month, I've been so moved by how we are the comic book police force. Like our voices do get heard when we come together and we're, loud about the right things. We're absolutely heard. I love it. Claudio says incestuous. That's what's happening at the top of these businesses. In fact, David Clark sending my 9.8s for a regrade for a 9.9. Then those idiots will drop my books and send them back with 7.5. There is risk, David. Always. There is risk. Don't let the dangling carrot get you running forever. There is absolutely risk. And also, we'll get into the 9.9 thing a little later, perhaps. And then Spidey Hit says again, Manu, it's happening. I can't see it past this heart in the corner.
Is there a new one?
It's the most latest.
Oh, there it is right there. Boom. It's happening. I'll have a very nice CGC Spidey Hit unboxing next week.
Good. I love it. Lord, always risk.
That's for sure. Well, you know what? It's funny. I said, I don't know if I said the story or not, but I had a giant size X-Men one when Brian's book. I'm not sure if Brian's watching or not, but it was a gorgeous copy. It came back in 9.2. It was so nice when it came back. I said, okay, now it's time to send it back for a press. He goes, but you already did press it. I said, yeah, I know I already pressed it, but now it's time for you to buy that 9.4. And so I explained to him, I go, my opinion is they're going to take, this is me being facetious and being very, conspiracy theory, but I think a book, if it's a 9.2, could be a 9.0, could be a 9.6, could be a 9.4. Okay. You're in that ballpark, right? So if you've got a book of that value, are you going to risk throwing that into a giant press? I think if you pay the fee and the book looks like it could put a grade higher, they're going to give you that grade. I don't even think they press a damn book. That's my opinion. I wouldn't know that, but I don't think they do. But the funny thing is they did press this one because it did come back in 9.4 and it looked freaking terrible.
Really?
Terrible. Wavy. And the comic is bowed inside this inner
I saw this. This was on your channel maybe a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. So I said to us, okay, now let's wait a few months and try for the 9.6.
Yeah, this is an opportunity to give this one another go.
Because they actually put problems into the book now, so they can try to.
Let me tell you really quick. And Malibu Sun 13 error. I buy this book raw on eBay, right? Individual didn't know it was an error. I asked for the back of the book. I saw it. I didn't tell him he was an error. I paid him what he was asking for it. He's happy he got what he was asking for it.
That's right.
Yeah. And he's probably like, why did this guy pay my full price? I had a best offer option. Once I saw it was the error, I bought it.
Yep.
And so then I attempted to sell it for, I think it was $1,400, right? I said, this is not going to achieve as high a grade as I'm after. So $1,400. No one bought it. I said, okay, press it, submit it. Got the 9.2, was happy as pie. The day the grade came in, you see the grade, it said 9.2.
Yeah.
9.0 had just sold for 2,800. This is the error. It's a very different book than the non-error in terms of values. And a friend of mine, I told him that, or I put it on my story that I have a 9.2 coming. Friend reached out. He said, I need that book. I said, make me an offer. He offered me 100 less than the 9.0 sale. I said, well, look, I'm not going to sell it for less than the 9.0 sale. It's a 9.2. But I was hoping for like 3,500. Let's meet in the middle. I had the book sold at 3,200 bucks, whatever the price was. And I said, don't pay yet. Let it come in. I wish I didn't know what I thought was the risk. And I said, don't pay yet. Let it come in. Book comes in. The bottom is damaged. It's bent. It's not the 9.2 that the grade says. So I told him, there's no commitment to the sale. I have to send this back to CGC. Let's wait and let's see what happens. Sent it to CGC, wrote notes and everything, talked to everyone, blah, blah, blah. Book comes back. New case. Same dent on the inside. They just treated it like a reholder.
Oh my God.
And that was after they had accidentally sent it to a signature series. Because after a week and a half of not hearing anything back, I called them and they said it went to a signature series event. I said, that's not what it's for. There for you guys, there with you guys for. And the next day it was shipped back to me. And I called and I said, how could it be shipped the next day? You guys are supposed to press this book, preserve the grade. So then it's back with me. And they said, we'll promise we'll press it again. And I said, you know what, the hell with it. Cracked it out myself. Or, had my guy, Taj, Epic Comicology, crack it out, pressed it. Book ended up being a 9.6, sold it for nearly $6,000.
There you go.
So
you should have bought it.
Right? The $1,400 was a good deal, dang it.
Yeah.
And that was the first 9.6 of that book I had sold. That was many months ago. But I just tell that story to say, yes, they screw books up all the time, but sometimes it works in your favor because you get another opportunity to improve the book yourself and get the higher grade. Sorry about the tangent.
It's okay. It's fun. It's great. It worked out well.
I love
for
that
you.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is West Coast the Avengers saying about Bull Rock here about Steve? He says Bull Rock is trying to getting into the art rep business. This is true. I heard him speak about that. He's just moving from thing to thing because that's what he does. Oh, I mean, maybe.
Well, I'll be talking to Steve next Thursday.
You got Steve coming on the show. That's right.
Yeah.
Very pleasant guy to talk to. He's a really cool guy. So I look forward to watching that. Are you guys going to be live?
Live. You can ask live questions.
Brother, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in the chat.
The whole can thing, I like, I could edit, but it takes forever. I'd rather just go live, and if it screws up.
Yeah. We wanted to go live with Matt Nelson, but wow.
he said no. He said no.
No, actually, we had other things to run by him, but that I don't even think we ran by him. I think Dave and I collectively said, because you know how our friends in the chat are going to be if we're live.
Go at him.
And I don't think they would give us that opportunity. They'd be like, "You want to do this live?" They actually wanted to screen the video before we released it, but we said absolutely not. We said no. We'll give you the respect of not asking you questions your lawyers tell us not to ask you. But there's no way you're going to edit the video before putting it out. You're going to have to trust that we're going to put it out in a way that represents you fairly. But there's no way we're going to allow that. So when they asked us permission to edit the video, Dave and I already knew there's no way they're going to want to do this live. It would be.
Well, Steve, I told Steve.
Really wanted to.
I told Steve we're going to go live. He was like, "Really, live?" I go, yeah. What the hell? I'm a drama teacher, man. I'm an actor. I used to perform on stage live, man.
Steve's going to be fine with that. Steve loves in-person dialogue, conversation, meeting the people. That's his speed, And plus, he's not the one under all the scrutiny right now. He could be live all he wants. 100%. His lawyers aren't telling him nothing.
I did joke with him yesterday. I was talking to him yesterday. I said, "Hey, Steve, maybe it's time for a third company, a third third grading company." I
actually, Steve has a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge could be valuable to anyone starting a grading company. And I think he's done really well with that. I'll let him say it for himself, or maybe he has. He's done really well as a consultant over the years, helping individuals get into this business.
Yep. So why would you
his knowledge? Sorry. Yeah.
Why would you not take it? Right. It's like
exactly.
I look at the Disney thing with George Lucas, and he's like, I can stay on as a consultant. They took his scripts and threw them in the garbage and started from scratch.
Right.
Okay, sure. Good idea. Not.
Illuminati Comics says, I think so much of this also stems from COVID expansion and just being sloppy. No excuse, but I feel things will tighten up going forward. I have no trouble agreeing with what you're saying here. I think a lot of it might be a result of how they had to ramp up so quickly due to demand. And Yeah. Oh, he follows up. He says hiring jobbers, and now with the market being back to normal, the jobbers are getting cleared out. Quite possibly.
You
Quite
know,
possibly.
I've said this before, and recently, I think that, who the hell's working over there? Like, are you hiring people that know comic books, or are you just hiring average Joes and teaching them how to handle comic books? That's a problem.
I agree.
All the guys that come into my shop, they're seasoned. We've been doing this for, myself since I was 15, right? And many of these guys have been doing it for 50 years, 60 years. You need people that respect the comics. You need people that understand how to handle the comics. I'm not saying, I'm not going to go down a certain road here. I'm not going to go there. I'll talk to you offline about that. But I don't want to
offline. I'm going to want to hear.
Yeah, it's nothing that bad, but I just don't want to start.
Sure. I got you.
But I mean, who are you hiring, and do these people actually know what they're doing? But if you're paying these people $15 an hour, minimum wage, whatever it is down in Florida, what do you expect? What are you going to get?
Yeah.
I say this when I was looking for someone to work with me, I wanted a paper conservator. I did not want just some run of the mill presser. I'm a presser. I can teach someone how to press a book, but I want someone with the credentials. I looked for I got lucky and I found her, right? It took me 3.5 years to find her. And
wow.
But she knows paper. Is CGC doing that? How long have you been collecting comic books for? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's not enough comic collectors in Sarasota. I don't know. But
you make a good point. I've heard the question come up before, and it's like, I know there were hiring inexperienced people during the pandemic, and the way I put it, a little facetiously, is they were learning on our books.
Screw that.
That sucks,
that, man. Yeah, damn right.
Yeah,
pressing a book, it's your third book. Like when Nupur came on, she'd been working in a museum in Mumbai for like 10 years or 8 years.
You said an Indian name and it caught my attention, and then you said Mumbai. So I'm like, oh wow, cool.
She was actually in Mumbai for the last 2 weeks. Just got back yesterday. She's back in shop tomorrow, but she knew nothing about comic books. She was working on manuscripts from like the 1880s and things like, old paper. Right.
Yeah.
So, but she dove right in. I guess, okay, here, watch all these movies. It's the fastest way to learn. So she watched the whole MCU thing, all the Star, got her geeked out. And she didn't start working on books right away. I have a good friend, Roy, who's a dealer. I said, Roy, do you want some free pressing? He's like, yeah. And I said, he gave us like 200 books, and she just got to work, man. And did they do that at CCS? Do they give people, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks of training before they jump in? We don't know. And the fact they're so closed off about it is a concern too. I asked to tour the facility last year when I was in Florida. I couldn't even get a t-shirt. Come on and get nothing. They wouldn't let me in to meet any of the people that work there. And I'm like, I've worked with you guys for 10 years. I did $150,000 with you last year, and I can't come in and see your facility. What? Why? What are you hiding?
Exactly. What are you hiding?
Exactly.
Because the truth of the matter is, a relationship like yours with CGC, you should get an annual invite to the dinner, the whatever.
Yeah. You know that. Remember, they had
the facility, have some champagne with us. Now spend another $200,000 next year. Goodbye.
Well, that's it. I don't even want anything. I just wanted to meet the people I email with, the people I talk to. You said it, relationships, right? Even my clients. I like meeting my clients face to face. I like having conversations with them. And the fact that they treat me like I'm a third-rate citizen, it drives me bonkers. I think their model is just upside down. They should be treating their dealers a lot better. 25%.
And I'll tell you, I agree with you. And I'll tell you the thing that I just said about like a relationship like yours, they should be doing this for you, that for you. Somebody, and this has been happening recently, like we'll have 2 hours of conversation, but someone will pick that one spot and be like, Manu's so arrogant. I mean, like, yeah, I might have sounded a little arrogant there, but like, sorry, like I feel like a relationship like yours with that company should be appreciated, and you should be welcome to the facility. Like that makes sense to me. It's not about, oh, you think you're so good, you should go to the facility. No, my guy works for them and spends $150,000 a year. Not works with them and spends $150,000 there. That privilege should be extended. If I go buy an expensive car somewhere, they're going to invite me over and over and over again because they know they want me to keep spending money with them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. My brother-in-law was a buyer for a big retail chain out here in Canada. You would not believe his house at Christmas time. All the gifts he was getting from the people selling him stuff, right?
Right.
Like,
it's how it goes. You're
right.
You're schmoozing or whatever.
There are no perks.
Okay, I'll catch up here. I can do, where's this? Nature Zen has a one I haven't seen.
Here.
And here it is. Do we think any Folio Society books, I'm going to need an education here, have made it through grading and don't have distinguishable differences from original? These reprints seem very dangerous to collectors. Can you help me with this one? This is in the weeds for me. What are we talking about?
Are you Nature's Zen? Are you talking about just some of the reprints that have been recently, like something like this?
Folio Society books. I probably should Google that real quick so I can be brought up to speed.
Like here we got the, but that's
that reprint.
Reprint, right?
And you could tell from that barcode that is a reprint.
Is that what you're talking about, or some? Is there some kind of society that's actually reprinting?
Folio Society. This is going to be a little. No, that didn't work out for me to give me a quick answer. I'm sorry.
I think any reprints could be detrimental, especially if they're raw. But I mean, honestly, I don't think a book that's reprinted is going to pass through their. I mean, I could tell a reprint. Action Comics #1, they've done tons of reprints of that. It's obviously nothing like the original. But more recent ones,
What about, what was a trip? Is Automatic was reporting on this, and I think a few people were reporting on this, and this is not a CGC mistake. This is just a buyer mistake. What about the people that were bidding up the golden record reprints for the Fantastic Four books and stuff like that, and paying 10, 15 times what it would have been if they had recognized that it's the gold, and it says it on the label, golden record reprint.
Buyer beware. That's just silliness.
That's right? Wild. And I remember when the Ultimate Fallout 4 first print came out with the reprints, CGC did mistakenly encapsulate a bunch of the reprints as first prints. Oh. That was a shame. And there are 2 identifiers on the cover, but if you're just a grader trying to get to lunch and you got 300 books in front of you and the book just came out, that memo's not on your desk yet, maybe to look for in the reprint.
Or a new grader, right? Or a new grade, like we said, people that don't know what they're looking for. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've been at this, like I said, for about 40 some odd years, and I don't know everything. My gosh, not even close. I talked to Steve Burrock like the other day, and half the stuff he's saying, I'm not even sure. I'm trying to make connections, but he's so much more wiser than I am with the whole comic book world, right?
Yeah, yeah. Gord Henderson, hello, good evening.
Yeah, I'll put him right there.
Says, I was thinking of making my first grading submission soon. Do you think people should hold off given the state of things at this point? If you don't mind, I want to share an opinion on this.
Go ahead.
Because it's a tricky question. My first answer is yes, I do think. But the reason I say that is because I want to fight that good fight. Let's not spend money with them. But at the same time, I understand why you would want to get your books graded. And maybe instead of saying no, don't, I say, do what makes you happy, but know that there is risk in it. But also going back to what Comic Doc said earlier, this might be the best time because maybe they're making sure not to screw up right now because they're under scrutiny as it is. So there's no straight up answer. If you can afford to hold off, like I don't mean financially, I mean like you have the will to not grade right now, I think it'd be cool for us not to. But the decision is yours, but I think it'd be cool for us not to. I graded a book 2 weeks ago, one, but I did. So
yeah, I've sent 250 books over the last 2 weeks. I feel bad now. I feel bad. People want it. People still want it.
It's your business, man. It's your business.
I'm not going to say no. I wish CGC would implode and be gone and people would still want their books pressed. That to me makes me a lot happier. I much rather prefer working on books than doing all the CGC paperwork and all the follow-ups and all the emails for all the screw-ups. I'm tired. So tired of it.
Absolutely. But that's a good question, Gord. Let us know what you're thinking. I'd love to have a follow-up message from you just in terms of and tell us what books are you thinking. That that's another way. Even our friends in the chat can provide an opinion on this. What books are you thinking about? Because based on the value of them, and I caught a little bit of shit about saying certain books shouldn't be graded, but I actually firmly believe that if the book is worth $40, $50, don't grade it.
No.
Do not grade it. You can keep it safe without encapsulating it. Don't bother.
Well, that's what I've been doing. I've been offering a lot of pre-screening at my shop for that reason. People are getting books done that just doesn't make sense to get them done. They're just not valuable enough with the pressing, the cleaning, the the grading, the shipping and all that. And
Yeah.
then when it comes back, it's the book's not worth it. So yeah, it's very important to do your due diligence and make sure the books are worth getting done.
This is great. Derek is, yeah, I agree with you. And Derek's saying this is back to the compensation of the employees, but he says,
This one?
yes, this one, whether their employees are good or bad, it's insane the amount of free reign they have. They can just walk around the warehouse, take books, print labels, whatever they want. No compartmentalization. And what an eye opener that was for me this morning to figure out, like, wait a second, you could steal books. Like, things aren't itemized in a way that once inventory's gone, you know who took it, like, what are their checks and balances? Are there any?
I don't know, because I couldn't check out their facilities.
I know, right?
Right.
Transparency.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, why would you not want, I get guys asking me questions. Well, how do they do the encapsulation? Or how do they, how many graders actually work on the books? Or I'm like, I have no fucking clue. Because
that whole thing, 2-3 graders touch every book. Get the fuck out of here. There's no way.
I've said
every one of your graders couldn't tell that there was a Mark Jewelers in that book. That means every one of your graders doesn't do their job and open books. No, you're better off just,
that's a load of malarkey. I don't believe that at all.
Absolutely. I'm with you. Illuminati Comics says there are very good graders working at CGC. However, most of the best graders in the world do not work at CGC because they're too busy making money submitting. Good point. It's a good point. If you know what your value is and you know how to milk it, why would you give that to someone else? Adam Lotta says, if they treat you like that, how do they treat the little guy?
Well, that's it.
That's
it. I'll tell you, I'm shocked, to be honest. I'm very shocked that they pay to have books that reslab that were caused by shipping damage. I'm absolutely shocked they do that, because it's not their fault. It's not their fault that FedEx buggers up the box or drops the box. That's CGC's fault. So
sure,
I give them credit for that. I always said the fact they're paying for all that's got to be a big dollar they're paying out, because I'm telling you,
because every day they must be getting 100 of those at least.
More than that. I have to be. In my 4 or 5 box, I always have 2 or 3, right? And then I think West Coast Avengers making fun of you here.
I love it. I have to. I wanted to say this. He says Manu is so arrogant. I feel weird reading this because I'm arrogant. Manu is so arrogant. He does good things and treats people well. He's so arrogant. If anyone doesn't know
about that, I mean, people were I see people were saying you were soft on Matt Nelson. You hear, he's too easy on Matt Nelson. Yeah, you get it. You get to those people. Get yourself a YouTube channel. Get the guy to come on your YouTube channel. And try to attack. We don't attack people daily, man. It's not easy to start attacking somebody on the fly. Who likes conflict, man? Right?
No, exactly. Sorry, yeah.
No, but he'll
never. You're defending me, and I'm cutting you off.
Well, no, but he'll never show up again. Like, he'll never do another show again. I mean, there's ways of making people. I'm not saying there's ways of getting your point across without going on the attack, right?
Yeah.
So, because honestly, he said a lot of stuff, like you said, about the whole 9.9. That shit's crazy, man. That's incriminating, really. I think.
It was a confession. He literally said, and I've said this, I've paraphrased his words, but he said, yes, there are a bunch of 9.9s that we didn't give 9.9s to. But if we do this pre-screen thing, you could pay us a little bit more. We'll look a little bit harder. And if we feel like it, we'll give you a 9.9.
Yes,
that's what he said.
That's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting. Because we've all thought, I swear to God, I've been doing this for 12 years. Every book I send in, I always think has a shot. Well, not every book, but those high grade babies, and maybe I'll get a 9.9 or a 10. Like I said, I've only ever gotten one book back in all these years in a 9.9 that predates 1991. That's thousands and thousands and thousands of books.
Let's see what happens now.
Yeah.
West Coast Avengers says, I love you, Doc. All caps. Been saying that for weeks. So he appreciates the support there. And yeah, people said I was soft on Matt, and I'm establishing a relationship there. And also I knew that Matt was only going to say what Matt was going to say. It doesn't matter how I ask the question. He has his answers prepared, and admittedly, I was just excited to have conversations about stuff. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
it's the space we're in. This is exciting stuff for me, and I do give myself the pat on the back that Dave and I carried this conversation a very long way, and I'm very proud of us, and I'm very proud of the whole entire community. And I don't want a little bit of softness on the Matt Nelson thing to overshadow this whole thing. I don't think it overshadows anything. And I think it's cool that it happened. And I've learned to be a better journalist, which I'm not, but now I've learned some lessons. Great.
Listen, guys, doing this is not friggin' easy. Like being online in front of people live, especially, is not an easy thing to do. So yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have some of my clients come on and join me in a few weeks too. So you'll get a taste for what it's like. But yeah. Anyways, be nice, people. Be nice.
David says they don't want you to see. He essentially said they don't want you to see their operation because they don't want you to start your own grading company, and that could be true. But my argument to that is, or I don't have an argument, but I want a food for thought for me or for anyone that wants to chew on it is sometimes even if you show someone how something's done, it doesn't mean that they're going to take the initiative to do it. It still takes a lot to make it happen. Yep. A lot of the equipment might be proprietary. Just because you see it doesn't mean you're going to be able to replicate it.
What you just said there is exactly what the vice president wrote me, because I complained. I asked customer service first. He said no. Then I wrote the vice president and said, what the hell, man? Like, seriously?
Yeah.
And he's like, we have proprietary equipment on premises. We do not give tours at this time.
So that goes to what David's saying. Like, they're using that as the thing, which could be right, but they can still afford some more transparency.
Sign a paper. Give me a contract. I won't share. I can't, non-compete, whatever,
NDA, yeah. In that case, an NDA makes sense. You don't want me to compete with you, and I promise you that I won't. If you're willing to show me this, if I'm willing to sign this, you let me in. But then you'll be the one that sees everything, but you won't be able to communicate to us it.
Without getting sued, right?
Yeah. So let's. Why do you put up with getting treated like that? We are gluttons for punishment, Kenny. And we don't have an alternative. They have sort of monopolized this thing, and we've put a lot of I don't have a good answer, and that's what we're working on right now. Like,
I could tell you why I do it.
Please?
Because my clients ask for it. Simple.
Oh yeah, there you go.
They ask for it. If I could close my chapter on CGC and never look back, and just send my own books in once in a while, the ones I want to encapsulate or sell myself, and deal with my own books, sure. But I deal with hundreds and hundreds of books a month, and that's because clients want them done. So I give my clients what they want, right? Yeah.
And I guess that's my answer too. I have far fewer clients than you, but I specialize in those relationships that I have. And if they want the graded version of the book, and I want to extract the value out of how difficult it was for me to find the highest grade example, then I have to utilize them. And if I had an alternative grading company, I would use them. But again, I don't want to say that I'm being a complete hypocrite here. My grading has slowed down tremendously. I've only submitted one book since any of this has happened, and that's because it was absolutely essential for me to do it. I took the risk of doing it. I'll tell you a secret. I didn't do it under my own account. So, I was like, I don't know. I might not want to do this under my own account. But I did put money in their pockets in order to get that done, which right now I do feel torn about. But again, I have slowed down my submitting a lot. And obviously publicly, I'm not the most supportive of CGC. And so I'm not a complete hypocrite, but I don't know what to do when I'm trying to extract that value. I don't have an alternative yet. I want another grading company to emerge. And again, I have a shipment ready for CBCS. I'll stop rambling about that.
I'm unfortunately in a different position than you, because I don't slag them often, to be honest. I complain about the silly things that happen, the extra work they give me to do. But I have to have a working relationship with them. I'm not going to go on here and say, don't ever send your books. I won't ever say that. I mean,
sure.
And I told you already, I'm not going to use CBCS. I will continue to use them because that's what I know. I know what to expect almost from them. They've trained me.
What? Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What? I don't want, this is like doomsday scenario or something, but what would it take for you to say, this is a tough question. Excuse me. What would it take for you to say, guys, to your clients, we cannot send anything to CGC? I know you want it, but you got to understand this is not the right thing to do. Is there something that could happen that would make you actually do that?
Oh, that's a tough question.
It is, right?
Because that would mean that they'd all go to my competition, right? And then I'm shutting my doors.
Ooh, yeah.
Right. So
CGC's
I'm in a
got us in
different,
a tough
yeah, I'm
spot.
in a different position. If I'm not going to send it somebody else, well, there are other pressers in Canada. My God, like I was telling you before, I was like probably one of the first ones in Canada doing this back whenever I was getting hate mail when I was pressing books in the old days.
12 years ago, you said, right?
About 12 years ago, I started really doing
Yeah.
it. 12, 13 years, something
Yeah.
like that. I always forget. It's around there. And yeah, no one was appreciating the pressing. And I went to the biggest comic show in Toronto, like the all comic show, and just put
Okay.
a little sign. I got busy really fast. Within 3 appearances, I had lineups. No one else was doing it. And the CGC thing came, well, can you send these to CGC? I'm like, yeah, I guess. And so then I reached out to CGC, got an account, and I started doing all that. But yeah, so what do I do now? Right. But since then, especially during COVID, everybody's a presser now. Be careful, you guys out there. Be careful. Everybody's a presser.
Yeah. And yes, like having a press, I don't want to get myself in trouble, but
I know.
The person that you work with is a professional in paper. How important is that?
Yeah.
To understand that different eras are different sorts of paper. They have different resistance to temperatures. They have different effects of how you humidify them. There's different expectations of time under heat, time under pressure, a reversion in the papers. If you just bought a press and now you're a presser, you are not. You are just the owner of a press. It takes experience.
A couple of guys were doing like 2 or 3 books. They have decent results. I'll start doing your books in the basement. And I wrecked that one, or I wrecked this one, or I forget this is yours or that's his. I don't know whose is. It's bad, man. It's bad. I've heard all the horror stories.
Yeah, and I support entrepreneurial endeavors, but of course, if someone's new and you want to submit with them, you might be looking at someone learning on your books, and you just have to be aware of that. But shout out to anyone that wants to get into pressing. I love people attempting to do something. I don't want to sound like a jerk about it, but yeah, man, nothing replaces that experience, my friend. Nothing does.
Hey, and again, what goes for CGC goes for me. I don't want to be a monopoly, right? First of all, I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle all the books.
Right.
We need more people doing it, but we need good people doing it. And just because you can press doesn't mean you can operate a business. You have good customer service skills. You can work with people. You understand things. You can talk to people. That's communication. All those things are important. So,
absolutely right. And the personability, right? The relationship development is a big part of a business, not just the technical side. So on and so forth. Ooh, super chats.
Thanks,
nice.
Hump.
Yeah, Hump, that's awesome. What did he say? Great discussion. Distrust may be the new CGC brand. I hope not. CGC is the only way to protect value, or it was. As a collector, I feel trapped and unsure. That's the problem. There's a lot of uncertainty, and we are torn in the middle. I think we do know the right thing to do is to vote with our wallet, and many of us are making that choice. Some of us are just throttling our spending, all of which is a good thing. Not everyone can just halt. Some people are still doing what they do, but at least communicating the trouble. All of it has a net positive effect. I think we're doing a good job, and CGC can afford to do a much better one, of course.
Definitely. Again, I think open doors is a good idea. And I think actually a good way, again, bringing back to what I was saying about how they treat the dealers is bringing the dealers in and having them as real they call them partners. Well, make us partners then. Like, treat us like partners. Just don't say it. Treat us like partners.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I see a longer message here from Swag, and then I skipped a few, but I want to read this.
Here it is.
Holding CGC accountable while also using them is understandable. Thank you. Same as holding Wall Street banking accountable while also having a bank account and owning stocks. It's the system we have inherited. Beautifully said. I've got nothing to add to that, and yes, thank you for saying that, my man. And then he follows up as the most recent comment.
Where is he?
I just hope the big dealers,
There he is.
I just hope the big dealers companies are putting the pressure on as well. And I think in Swag and I have talked about this, and this is a key thing for me. It's like when I'll speak for myself, a small time submitter, when I throw a fit, it does not affect the bottom line over there. I mean, financially, it doesn't. When we get the community together, there's an effect. But I'm just talking about my submissions do not pay the bills there. very little money comes to them from me. But when the conversation starts to irritate the larger dealers, when their client base, their customers start to question them about their slabs, where during the pandemic, things got real easy for people. It's like, the book's graded, here it is, it's yours. But now there's questions that come with the encapsulation. Who graded it? Where'd it come from? Can I see the corners? Can I see the spine? Volume dealers, that's a headache for them. They don't want to deal with that. So once they start feeling the frustrations of the insecurities of CGC, they will communicate their troubles to CGC. That will move the needle, right? And so I know it's a tough road to keep putting this message out there and having to be confronted with dealers that want you to stop talking about it because it could affect their bottom line. But knowing you're doing the right thing and wanting to keep that pressure applied. And I said this at the beginning, things will get uncomfortable before they get smooth. People that are going to be put out by this, upset by this, financially affected by this, there's a lot of ripple effect that comes from this. It's not just CGC gets hurt. Everyone that's had a business associated with CGC could potentially get hurt in the reestablishing of trust in this institution, or in the idea of third-party grading. But dealers and companies need to put the pressure on them for sure. And your videos.
I got to write another letter then, I guess. That'll go.
Yes,
I will. I will. Right.
And your videos are invaluable. The other day I watched you do an unboxing for clients, and you were having a positive time unboxing books until you noticed that case after case was screwed up.
Yeah.
And then you vocalized it. There's truth in that. People are seeing that someone that has a solid relationship with CGC is not getting any preferential treatment and is having to deal with the same issues that someone like myself, who is a blip, is having to deal with. And it's important, the messaging of that, like our friend in the chat that was hesitant about submitting because of the voices that are articulating the problems. That's making a difference. We should be hesitant about submitting.
Illuminati says something pretty cool here. He says, doubt CGC will be coming out with new cases anytime soon. Maybe a slight mod on all four sides, so it's slightly open, tampered. It will break, and then the fail-safe for enable the customers to see. They just changed their slabs, right? It wasn't too long ago.
This iteration is their new iteration, but how long ago was it actually? It was probably like 5-6 years ago.
5 years, probably 5 or 6 years. And they just created the magazine version of that this past year.
They just did, thank goodness, because that was the flimsiest piece of crap slab ever. I've never seen a label in that slab lay the right way. The labels in that were always just like wherever they wanted to be.
Yeah,
that was a bullshit slab. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it was terrible.
Let me tell you. I want to show you this, and I want to get your take on this one.
Sure.
And I've shown this a time or two, but have you ever had a slab come in a book come in encapsulated that was just not closed? If it wasn't sealed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that doesn't mean that this is necessarily a fake slab that someone purchased and I bought a book on eBay, and because it has a sticker on it. They just forgot to seal this thing at CGC.
Okay, wait. Where'd you buy it from?
eBay.
Okay. If I get something like that, I send it back for a reslab. It's a mechanical error. It's not properly
sealed. This
sealed.
person sold it to me on eBay.
Yeah, what the fuck?
And I bought it with the intention of cracking the book out, so I didn't give a shit. But I kept this because I thought that was really interesting. This was not recent. This was like maybe 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
But none of the points were sealed. That that area that gets hypersonically, whatever the word is, it wasn't done. So I was just like, what the hell? That's amazing.
I've seen a couple of those.
Okay.
But I would never give that to my customer. I'd be like, okay, we're going to send this back now, right? And that's that.
Yeah, this is one of those kind of sellers that didn't give a shit. He was like, I'm going to pass this on to someone else. And fortunately, he was half of an idiot anyway, because the book that I cracked out of it didn't have to crack out of it, but the book that I took out of it was worth more raw than the grade that
That's okay. All worked out, but that's strange. Yeah, that's very, very strange. Well, listen, my friend, we've been going for 2 hours now. I think we've done our due diligence here. We've give these guys some entertainment, I think, for an hour or 2 hours.
I hope so. I really appreciate everyone hanging out with us, and And my friend, thank you for having me on. This
My
was fun, man.
Yeah, my
I
pleasure.
really appreciate it.
I wanted to have you on a few weeks ago, but you were really busy. I know doing all those other, you had lots of streams planned for the, different people. I
Yeah.
get it.
Thank you for inviting me, though. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope to come back on here again. I'd like
I'd love
to
to.
continue the conversation. And now that I have this fancy StreamYard, I could bring even more people on. So I could bring a whole bunch of people on.
That's absolutely right. Yes,
right.
you could get Dave and I together, and then it'd be a real mess on this.
A real mess. and maybe we could talk about something, even with Swag last week, is let's talk about something other than the scandal.
Right, which is what we intended to do until this morning.
It's true, guys. If you saw my thumbnail this morning, it was different than today. It was different. Yeah. All right, man. Listen, thanks so much for coming out, guys. That was the 9.9 Newsstand coming into one-on-one with me, the Comic Doctor. If you're new here, guys, you enjoy the conversation, you enjoy all this type of comic book talk, I sure hope you consider subscribing to the channel, liking the content. And by subscribing, as you can see, you can participate in the conversation. And I do shows every week, Tuesday unboxings, pretty much every single week. That's how many books I send. And Thursdays has become kind of the one-on-one day. We'll see. Sometimes it'll be on, sometimes it'll be off, but we'll see how that goes over the upcoming weeks. Oh, and next week I've got Steve Borak here, so you want to be tuned in for that as well, live.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Now I got to figure out how to turn this darn thing off. That's the only problem. I go over here, I think, and then I go right over. No, where the heck is it? Right there. All right, guys. Have a great night. All the best.
Are we still live? We might still be live. I'm going to be careful not to say anything.
Yeah, I think they can still hear us. Here we go. And it's off now.